So it's time now to talk about what we've just heard today, and I'd like to invite Donald Clark up to our panel, and Catherine, you might come back up to join us as well. So this is an opportunity for you all out there to participate. Please don't be shy. I'm sure you all have something to say, or you have some thoughts about what was said, or indeed you have something to contribute. If you want to say something, just raise your hand, and we will come to you imminently. So you've met. I'll just introduce the panel again. You've met Catherine, you've also met Marcel, and Donald Clark there in the middle. Well, Donald is the co-author of the aforementioned book, Wise Use of Mires and Peatlands. He's also former secretary of Bord na Móna, and he's on the committee of the Irish Peat Society as well. So we'll start by opening the floor and see if anybody has any questions. Just raise your hand about anything you might have heard. No? Okay. Well, Catherine, if I might go to you first then. Do you have a response or anything to say about what Marianne Harkin just spoke about there? Thank you.
Marianne is a very good speaker. I think we'll all agree with that. She's very articulate. I'm not really sure if what she had to say about the peat industry and sustainability really matches up with what Marcel had to say. So I think there's the first dilemma. She's stirring things up, of course, and that's what we want. But I'm not really sure that I could see her point of view completely clearly. I think she kind of forgot a bit about carbon and emissions along the way in that speech. I do agree that we need to have community involvement in things. It's something we discuss a lot, and there's a lot of criticism about the approach, perhaps that IPS and other groups, even ourselves in my own line of work, take to engaging with community. But I think where we have community engagement, absolutely, it's 100%. You get the result that you're looking for along the way. So that's just my reaction. I don't know what anyone else might be feeling.
Anyone else? Oh yes, sorry, there is somebody here. If you just introduce yourself, please.
Katrina Douglas, I'm working in the National Parks.
Katrina, just grab the microphone, yeah.
Katrina Douglas, I'm working in the National Parks and Wildlife Service in Ireland.
Okay.
Just the panel's view on production of biomass for co-firing. It's similar to what Marius said about palm oil. I think biomass needs to be grown on mineral soils if it's to be sustainable, and that biomass maybe grown on peatlands wouldn't be, even if degraded, unless it's polludiculture. And if the panel has any views on that, I'd like to hear them.
Marcel or Donald? Marcel, okay. Donald.
Hello.
Just
Hello.
Yeah.
I think there's an issue. I think there's an issue with biomass. We first of all have the legal position within the EU and other administrations that biomass is per se a good thing. But I think there are a lot of other issues that have to be raised about biomass. Firstly, how far it has to be transported, and secondly, on what ground it is grown. So I think there are big questions to be answered. I can't answer them at once. But there is a legal issue that biomass is at the moment a good thing.
Yes, biomass at the moment is considered a zero emission fuel. So the more biomass you use without proper certification of its sustainability, the more biomass you use, the easier it is for the European Union to achieve its climate targets. So as a result, it's of interest for the European Union to, for instance, subsidize the maize cultivation in Germany, even though it happens for a large part on peat, and totally disregarding the emissions that are derived from that. They also import oil palm, or palm oil, also as a biofuel. And the certification mechanisms that are being used by the EU don't really look very well at the full carbon footprint of that material. But even if it would, it would still count in the European climate account as a zero emission fuel. So there's this kind of an incentive for European Union to do the wrong thing, and that's one aspect that is of grave concern. I think there are good opportunities to create biomass, to produce biomass on peatlands. Like in the Netherlands, we have a large peatland, the Vochteloerveen, which is being restored from agricultural land to nature areas. And actually, these nature areas, they have a large biomass production in the form of reeds. And that reed and other biomass that's growing there in this re-wetted peatland is being mown by a company called Hanze Wetlands, which then turns it into biogas, but it also takes out all kind of other elements out of the reed that is used in the Dutch chemical industry. So there are different products coming from these reeds that make mowing of re-wetted peatlands really a profitable business. It does require adaptation. You need to have different machinery that has very low ground pressure. But that has been developed, and all kind of production chains have been developed. There's now a new facility of the University of Delft, the Technical University of Delft, which is specifically looking at what components can we get out of sustainably produced biomass that can feed into all kinds of chemical industries in the Netherlands, as well as in the energy sector. So I think, biomass production on re-wetted peatlands definitely is a great possibility, and then it actually can even be combined with biodiversity restoration. Maybe not into a perfect conservation area, but definitely a very productive one with more biodiversity values than we have in these poor agriculture areas.
Does that answer, Catherine? Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
That is a form of paludiculture, so you're talking about it in flooded or re-wetted peatlands.
Yeah, paludiculture is the commercial production of indigenous commercial species on re-wetted peatlands. So they're fully re-wetted, non-drained peatlands. Once you start drainage, it becomes unsustainable. So as we see with the maize cultivation in Germany, that's all drained peatlands, and it leads to an energy that has a carbon footprint that's 8 times bigger than if you would use fossil fuel. So what are we doing?
Okay.
I actually think this whole aspect of the current subsidies of the European Union in relation to this unsustainable biomass, I think it's fraud. I think European taxpayers' money is being used for something that is actually counterproductive. They are enhancing climate change instead of reducing it, and they continue doing it. It's being pointed out by many scientists that this is a wrong way of dealing with biomass. But it takes many years to change a piece of legislation in the European Union. They just won't stop.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Oh, okay, over here.
Thank you. Not so much a question as a comment for open the discussion.
Can I just have your name, please?
Oh, sorry, Jack Riley, IPS Vice President too.
Thanks, Jack.
I enjoyed the speech by the European MP, Maria.
Yeah, Marion.
Marion. And also that she started off with the Brundtland report and that definition of sustainability. And it's about the word sustainability that I want to bring up here. That definition to me is a very well thought out and broad one. It runs roughly like activities of current generation will not be held to account by future ones. It doesn't say that you can't use a resource. Basically, it builds in the concept that you use resources wisely or responsibly, as I would say. Since that Brundtland report, of course, this word sustainability has been taken over by many different people, from NGOs to governments, and they impose their own interpretation and definition, which usually somewhere in there builds in this other word, renewable. It's not helpful to interpret the first definition. And certainly in the work that I've been very familiar with, when you get into sustainability and you try to define it, you will never agree on what actually it is. And this is one of the things that has, I think, held up the British government DEFRA discussions on peat, is what is the definition of sustainable and sustainability. So I'm inviting the panel to comment on that, because as soon as you say sustainability means renewability, you chuck out peat, and then we don't have any kind of potential management. And I think I'll add another thing in. Peatlands, I've worked on peatlands all my life. Peatlands are not forever. And many people don't realise peatlands have a life. They form, they grow, they degrade. They don't exist forever. And if you look historically, they have come and they have gone. And degradation is something that happens in response to changes in climate as well as human intervention. So much as I can get very passionate about peatlands, one should not be obsessive and thinking you should never touch them, because even if you don't touch them, they're doing their own thing in response to pressures. Thank you.
Okay, Catherine or Donal?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think you can't have any discussion about development without coming across the term sustainable, as Marian Harkin pointed out. However, in terms of peatlands, it is a very difficult concept. As Jack Riley has said, technically, sustainability means you don't drain a peatland. So when we were talking over many years with our colleagues in developing the Wise Use book, we actually chucked the term sustainable. You won't find it anywhere in the book except in the introductory chapter where it is defined. But we used the term wise use, which we took from the Ramsar Convention, which deals with all aspects of wetlands. When we came to develop the strategy for responsible peatland management, again, we looked at the word sustainable, and we rejected it because we said the word we would use would be responsible. And all of these terms were not just thought up by 2 or 3 people. These were terms that were developed out of very extensive systems of consultation. So, whereas I think the word sustainable is a very important word when it is defined in terms of global economic development, I think the words responsible or wise use are much more appropriate in terms of peatlands. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, that gentleman over there. Just wait for the microphone, please. Just there.
Thank you. I think that it's very interesting to have in your mind that 7 years ago we were here in Tullamore on the Congress, and we had the first discussion about certification here. And I know that it was very good, and it was a lot of thoughts about about this certification. But now we are embarking on the RPP, so we could say to ourselves that we have been indeed successful. But I have just one question that I think is very important to Donald. I think that the word sustainable is a word that it's more a question about political than science. If you look through countries, it is very interesting literature that show that the word sustainable change depending on who is defining it and in what circumstances it's defined. It's very much based on the parliamentary situation in different countries and so on. So sustainable is a word that changes over time. And I think that the peatlands, it's perhaps you could say that it's not sustainable, but it's a question for wording and definition of different countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Donal?
The word sustainable has been used in relation to peat as or peatlands as those uses of peatlands for which we will not be blamed in the future. I agree with you in terms of the politicisation of the word sustainable. I agree with the Brundtland definition, and I've used that for many, many years. But that definition has in itself been politicised, and unfortunately in the political dialogue, certainly all across Europe, every time anything is proposed, whether it's a health service policy or whether it's an industrial development or whether it's a wind farm, the word sustainable is always used politically. So for that reason, I find it absolutely necessary that if people use the word, they should define it.